What's up, Taiwan? I'm Reece with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan's Premier Zhou Rongtai has met with the head of the legislature, Han Kuo-yu, to try to break an impasse over next year's budget. The meeting across party lines came after the Premier made his first appearance in the legislature after opposition lawmakers voted down his cabinet's proposed budget. They've demanded the cabinet revise its spending plan for next year. For more on this, Louise Watt is live for us in Taipei. Louise, how serious is this? And could we see possibly no budget passed at all?
Reece, this is the second time that the budget has been kicked back to the cabinet to rework. Lawmakers have to pass next year's budget before the end of the year. If not, their government will still have money to function, but no new policies or projects will have funds. So that would mean that there'll be no salary increases for civil servants, for teachers, for military personnel. And the government's plan to build new submarines to try to help it resist a possible Chinese invasion, that would also be in trouble too. Now, opposition lawmakers on a budget review committee, they've blocked the budget largely on procedural grounds. They say that there isn't enough funds for that. There isn't enough funds, and there should be. So they say that there's not enough, for example, to pay for agreed compensation agreements to indigenous communities. But some analysts do see party politics at work here. Opposition lawmakers are taking issue at the cabinet's publicity budget. Now that would be an increase from $19 million to $28 million. The government says this is needed to promote government initiatives. Opposition lawmakers see it more as the ruling party trying to get favorable media coverage. And they're also questioning large amounts of money that the government's pouring into the state-owned and loss-making energy company, $3 billion. But past governments have also had that kind of policy. More broadly, this is a reminder of the obstacles that President Lai Ching-te's government is facing. They're not just dealing with threats from China, they also have to get their policies passed an opposition-dominated legislature. Now, on the proposed budget, there are still a few weeks to go until the deadline, so there is time for it to get passed. Whether it does or not, well, that's a matter of political will.
Thanks for that update, Louise. That was Louise Watt for us live in Taipei. Defense officials say there has been a surge in Chinese military activity around the country, with Beijing carrying out 2 straight days of large military exercises near the island. The Defense Ministry has accused China of doing all it can to build up its military while creating an illusion of dialogue. But China insists its actions are legitimate. Rick Glauert reports.
An unwelcome vessel enters Taiwanese waters, off Jinmen Islands. One of 4 Chinese Coast Guard ships spotted in just one day.
密进入金门禁限制水域，严重破坏区域和平稳定，影响海上交通秩序及航行安全，请立即转向驶离。
After a couple of hours, the Chinese vessels complied, but the government in Beijing maintains that these waters and the rest of Taiwan are part of its sovereign territory. And they've been making intrusions like this one more frequently. 32 Chinese military planes entered Taiwan's air identification zone in 24 hours. This just days after Beijing launched an intercontinental ballistic missile that passed south of Taiwan. The Defense Ministry here condemning what it calls China's expansionist ambitions.
因应中共全面提升武力、我战略预警时间大幅缩短等威胁，国军会持续的陆力建军备战，增强不对称的嚇阻战力，并且深化官兵的爱国信念，以建构可视的军事力量以及防卫韧性，来捍卫国家主权以及百姓安全。
The self-ruled island nations' leaders say that the increasing frequency of their neighbours' incursions threatens not just Taiwan, but also regional stability. But China is not backing down.
解放军为台岛周边海空域组织演训活动正当合理，我们将持续加强练兵备战，常态组织有关军事行动。
Taiwan's defense minister warns that exercises like these could be cover for a surprise attack, and that it is becoming harder to tell what is behind the rise in Chinese military activity.
所以它其实就是在增加一些政治上的压力。那这个战术我们看到很多，也就是北京它想要达到政治目标，但是不要去触动战争的情况。
It's less than a week before China's National Day, often a time it flexes its military might and reiterates its goal of bringing Taiwan under its control. An outcome Taiwanese leaders say they're determined to thwart, ready to stand in defense of Taiwan's sovereignty and its people. James Lin and Rick Lowett for TaiwanPlus.
A US defense official says China's newest nuclear submarine sank earlier this year. The incident happened in May or June, with the state-of-the-art sub reportedly sinking at the Wuchang shipyard near Wuhan. China, which has the largest navy in the world and has embarked on producing a new generation of nuclear-armed submarines, has not commented on the incident. Taiwan's defense minister, meanwhile, says its intelligence agencies were aware of the situation.
我们一方面根据这个相关的这个媒体的报道嘛，那我们也做过一些演习，我们自己本身也有透过我们多重的情监的手段，来有所掌握。
Amid the ever-present threats of conflict with China and of natural disasters, President Lai Ching-te hosted the first meeting of a committee made up of civil and defense leaders. Their goal, how to better prepare for any future crisis. Chris Gorin reports.
The country needs to prepare for a crisis. That was the message from President Lai Ching-te as he convened a new committee on civil defense. The committee includes representatives from civil society, security, and religious groups, coming together to discuss how they might work with the government during times of crisis.
中央到地方政府要进行全方位的验证和演练，也要扩大跟民间团体和社会力量连结，彼此携手合作，以系统性、专业性方式找出问题，拟定对策，落实执行。
The hope is that the country will be able to handle not only the medical and social demands of a crisis, but also maintain its critical infrastructure, including energy, communication, and financial networks. The government is planning at least 3 exercises over the next year.
2月的时候能够进行一次桌上兵推，明年3月希望能够在某一个县市进行一个地方的小规模演练。6、7月我们希望能够结合汉光演习，进行一个比较全面性的前导性的演练。
Such drills wouldn't be a first in Taiwan. Both government and civil groups have conducted civil defense drills in the past. The meeting came on the same day that the Defense Ministry said it detected Chinese military joint combat readiness patrols around Taiwan, and days after a major Chinese missile test. The country has also been hit with natural disasters such as earthquakes and typhoons this year. The government's focus on drills may have its limits, however.
开完会之后，能不能落实到政策面来讲，其实它的效果很有限。有些演习或演练，它没有办法拟真。譬如说，发电厂爆炸。
Whatever its effect on policy, it seems President Lai is at least trying to draw more attention to the need for preparation across the country, as the natural and man-made risks to Taiwan don't appear to be going away anytime soon. Devin Tsai and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
Lebanon's foreign minister renewed calls for a ceasefire in fighting between Israel and Hezbollah at the United Nations General Assembly after a US-backed proposal was rejected by Israel.
يعيش لبنان هذه الأيام أزمة تهدد وجوده ومستقبل شعبه ورفاهيته وتتطلب تدخلا دوليا عاجلا قبل أن تخرج الأمور عن السيطرة وتتساقط أحجار الدومينو المترابطة ويتحول العجز من احتوائها وإطفائها.
The United States, Australia, the EU and several other countries have called for a 21-day halt in fighting in Lebanon. But Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has poured cold water on that proposal, telling reporters ahead of his address at the UN that Israel will keep hitting Lebanon with full force until they have achieved all their goals. US Vice President Kamala Harris has promised unwavering support for Ukraine in its war with Russia.
The United States supports Ukraine not out of charity, but because it is in our strategic interest. We will continue to provide the security assistance Ukraine needs to succeed on the battlefield.
Harris, who is also the Democratic presidential nominee, spoke with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy in Washington. Their meeting comes after US President Joe Biden announced more than $8 billion in new military assistance for Ukraine. Zelenskyy is also set to meet with Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump as he seeks to shore up support for his embattled country. Former Taipei mayor and one-time presidential hopeful Wen-je has been hit with fresh allegations of corruption involving a shopping mall project. A city councillor claims Ke personally pushed the project through, skipping over the proper channels. John Van Trieste reports.
Former Taipei Mayor Wen-je has already been questioned 4 times over corruption allegations from his time in office. But there are yet more questions for investigators to ask, especially after a new accusation from a city council member. Ke has been arrested twice since the end of August. Prosecutors believe while he was still mayor, he may have done a corrupt deal that helped a shopping mall in the city make big profits. What might have been a local scandal is national news because Ke's the founder and central figure of one of Taiwan's big 3 political parties, the Taiwan People's Party. Ke's downfall could bring the rest of the party crashing down. Those hoping to vindicate Ke have more bad news, though. City Councilor You Shu-hui of the rival Kuomintang has dug up records she says show Ke personally pushing the project to dramatically expand the mall's floor space through, skipping over the proper channels.
参加这一场会议的都发局的同仁，那他的解读是说，就是当时柯市长应该是就是要求说，直接做成560，然后不用经过都委会所以用行政处分的方式上网公告。
And some from Ke's other rival, the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, have taken up this accusation too.
在的都显示柯文哲在整个过程里面其实是知悉的，而且柯文哲甚至在内签里面其实是有签名的哦。然后现在摆烂说自己完全不晓得，我觉得这真的是说不过去哦。
But Ke's backers say these rivals are just trying to shield Ke's predecessor as mayor for his possible involvement with the mall.
根据专家意见，上网公告究竟哪里做错了？监察委员也是在102年跟104年2次对郝市府提出纠正报告。游淑慧议员现在只是在替郝龙斌转移焦点，卸责罢了。
Whatever motive may be behind it, this fresh accusation adds fuel to a scandal that may upset the balance of power in national politics. Klein Wang and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
7 new cases of dengue fever have been confirmed in New Taipei as authorities scramble to contain a rare outbreak of the disease in northern Taiwan. It brings the total cases of the mosquito-borne disease to 14 in New Taipei. Health officials say they're mobilizing to clean up any stagnant water where the insects can breed. They're also warning people to be vigilant when in forests or grassy areas. Dengue fever has long been restricted to Taiwan's south, but hotter and wetter weather has allowed the disease to spread further north. Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Before we go, let's take you to Australia to meet Pesto, the huge king penguin chick who, at 9 months old, weighs around 23 kilos. Almost as much as his parents combined. I'm Reece. Take care and see you next time.